Imagine boarding a rocket in Los Angeles, grabbing coffee, and by the time you finish sipping, you're landing in Sydney, on the other side of the world. No jet lag, no endless 15-hour flights, just 30 minutes. It sounds like pure science fiction, but for Elon Musk, it's not just a dream. It's a blueprint for the future of global travel. Globe showing Europe-Africa rocket. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we dive into Elon Musk's jaw-dropping vision that could collapse continents, erase borders, and redefine what it means to be far away. Elon Musk isn't just building cars and rockets. He's building time machines. Not the kind that take you to the past, but the kind that gift you back your future. Through SpaceX's Starship project, Musk envisions a world where rockets don't just head to space, but from city to city on Earth. Imagine LA to New York in 25 minutes, Dubai to London in 29 minutes, and yes, Los Angeles to Sydney in only 30 minutes. Here's the secret. Starship would launch vertically like a traditional rocket, cruise through the edge of space at hypersonic speeds, and then re-enter the atmosphere to land at its destination. Instead of cruising at 900 kilometers per hour like a jet, Starship could travel at 27,000 kilometers per hour. That's 30 times faster. But here's the twist. Turning this vision into reality won't be easy. Safety, cost, noise, and regulations all stand in the way. Can humanity really handle rocket launches as casually as boarding a plane? Would tickets cost millions? Or could Musk pull off his promise of making it affordable for the everyday traveler? These questions hang in the air like the smoke trails of a rocket. If Musk succeeds, this could change everything. Global business could happen face-to-face in minutes, not days. Tourism would boom like never before, and the concept of long distance might disappear entirely. The world wouldn't just feel smaller. It would be smaller. Elon Musk's vision of LA to Sydney in 30 minutes may sound unbelievable today. But then again, so did reusable rockets, electric cars, and landing boosters on floating drone ships. And yet, here we are. So maybe the next time you think about flying across the world, you won't be packing for a long flight. You'll just be strapping in for a rocket ride. Rocket, what do you think? Would you trust a rocket ride to Sydney over a regular flight? Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe, and hit that bell for more deep dives into the future of technology. Globe showing Europe-Africa sparkles. Now, let's pause for a second and imagine the human experience. Picture this. You're a student in Los Angeles, and your dream university is in Sydney. Right now, that journey feels like a world away, literally half a day in the air. But with Musk's rocket travel, you could attend classes in Sydney and still be home in time for dinner in LA. For businesses, the concept of global headquarters could disappear. A company could host morning meetings in San Francisco, lunch negotiations in Tokyo, and close the day with a celebration in Paris. All without losing a night's sleep. But here's the burning question. Who can afford this future? At first, ticket prices might rival those of private jets, millions of dollars for the ultra-elite. But Musk's history shows us something important. Prices drop dramatically once technology scales. Remember the early Tesla Roadster? A six-figure car for a handful of enthusiasts. Fast forward, the Tesla Model 3 became an everyday car for hundreds of thousands. Musk believes the same could happen with Starship travel. The more rockets fly, the cheaper each ticket becomes. One day, a rocket ride across the world could cost little more than a first-class airline seat. Of course, every revolution has hurdles. And this one, the hurdles are sky-high. If Musk succeeds, this isn't just about convenience. It's about rewriting humanity's relationship with time and distance. Think about how airplanes once shrank the world. Cities separated by oceans suddenly became weekend trips. Entire industries, from tourism to trade, exploded. Rocket travel could be the next leap. A leap so big that future generations might laugh at the idea of long flights. To them, the thought of spending 15 hours in a plane might sound as outdated as crossing the Atlantic by ship sounds to us today. Think about how cultures might change when distance is no longer a barrier. Food tourism could explode. Imagine waking up in LA craving authentic sushi and being in Tokyo before lunchtime, or flying to Rome just for dinner and a moonlit walk through the Colosseum. Entire travel industries would be reshaped, with weekend getaways meaning anywhere on Earth. Even relationships could evolve. Long-distance couples separated by oceans wouldn't just rely on video calls. They could literally see each other for coffee and be back home the same day. Borders might still exist on maps, but emotionally, the world would feel borderless. Now, consider what happens when this technology scales. Nations that embrace rocket ports could become global superhubs. Cities like Dubai, Singapore, or New York might transform into cosmic airports where thousands of rockets launch daily. This could redistribute economic power. Countries that control the best launch sites, strategically positioned near oceans and equators, might rise to dominate the 21st century's trade routes, just like ports did in the age of ships. But with power comes tension. If rockets can move people and cargo at hypersonic speeds, governments will worry. What stops them from being used for military purposes? Could passenger rockets spark a new arms race, one where nations compete to master global movement as quickly as missiles? And then there's the passenger's point of view. The journey itself would be unlike anything on Earth. Boarding at a floating sea platform, strapping into seats that feel more like a space mission than a flight. A deafening roar as the rocket ignites, lifting passengers into the sky in seconds. Silence as the rocket glides through the edge of space, offering breathtaking views of Earth, continents, oceans, and the curve of the horizon all at once. It wouldn't just be a flight. It would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Every single time. Fast forward a few decades. It's the year 2050. The sight of rockets blasting off no longer makes headlines. It's as routine as planes taking off today. Families plan vacations with the same casual question. Europe or Asia this weekend? Business professionals check rocket schedules instead of flight times. Global commutes shrink into something as normal as a train ride. Travel influencers no longer talk about the struggle of long flights. Instead, they compare which window seat gives the best view of the Earth's curve during suborbital cruises. And airports? They've evolved into rocket ports. Massive hubs floating offshore, connected to cities by high-speed ferries. Instead of watching planes taxi down runways, passengers watch boosters return from space, landing upright with precision. The very idea of local culture evolves. Music, food, fashion, everything blends faster. You could hear a live concert in Seoul, then catch another in Rio the same night. Cultural exchange is no longer limited by geography. It flows as quickly as the rockets themselves. With rockets making the world so small, businesses no longer think in terms of regions. They think in terms of the entire planet. A startup in Lagos can meet investors in Silicon Valley, shake hands in person, and still deliver a pitch in London, all within a single afternoon. The phrase global headquarters becomes almost meaningless because the true headquarters is everywhere. Trade shifts dramatically too. High-value cargo, medicine, electronics, rare materials can travel from factory to market in under an hour. For global supply chains, rocket travel isn't just fast, it's revolutionary. Inside, the cabin feels futuristic yet familiar. Wide seats angled for launch comfort. Windows stretching overhead, giving passengers a panoramic view of the stars above and the glowing Earth below. The moment the rocket breaks free of the atmosphere, silence replaces a roar. Passengers float for a brief moment, weightless, gazing at the blue curve of Earth. Children giggle as their snacks float. Couples hold hands while staring at the galaxies beyond. And then re-entry. A smooth descent. Engines firing just enough to slow the ship. Within minutes, the rocket lands vertically on a floating platform, greeted by ferries waiting to carry passengers ashore. It's no longer just travel. It's an experience, one that turns ordinary people into spacefarers. For kids growing up in this world, space isn't distant. It's part of their everyday life. They don't just dream of becoming astronauts. They already live like them every time they travel. As rockets normalize Earth travel by 2050, humanity's gaze inevitably shifts upward. If hopping continents takes just half an hour, then why not extend that leap into the cosmos? The infrastructure already exists. Offshore rocket ports, reusable boosters, fleets of starships designed to take off, land, refuel, and repeat. The only difference between a rocket trip to Sydney and a trip to Mars is distance. And so, the same generation that grows up traveling the globe in 30 minutes begins to see Mars not as science fiction, but as the next logical step. If Earth can be connected this tightly, then humanity itself can stretch beyond Earth. Before Mars comes into play, another revolution takes shape: Earth-to-orbit commuting. Business satellites, research stations, even luxury space hotels orbiting the planet become accessible for ordinary citizens. A wealthy family might book a weekend in low Earth orbit, looking down at the entire planet from their hotel suite. Corporations set up offices in orbit, where executives literally work above the clouds. For the first time in history, outer space becomes an extension of the travel network that once just connected cities. But as Earth becomes smaller and space becomes reachable, politics undergoes a seismic transformation. Nations begin to collaborate and compete over orbital territories and Martian colonies. A rocket port in Singapore isn't just about convenience anymore. It's about power. Cities positioned at the crossroads of orbital and interplanetary travel become the new global capitals. The United Nations debates not only borders on Earth, but borders in space. Whose laws govern a rocket flying from LA to Beijing at 27,000 kilometers per hour? Who owns a city built on Mars? These questions grow urgent as rockets erase traditional limits. For the average person, however, the focus isn't politics. It's lifestyle. A journalist in Paris could cover a breaking story in New York, then return home for dinner. A doctor in London could perform surgery in Sydney, aided by AI robotics, and be home the same evening. A high schooler in Mexico City could join an exchange program in Tokyo without ever worrying about the long flight. The barrier of distance that defined human history, wars fought over trade routes, empires built on geography, civilizations shaped by oceans, all of it fades into irrelevance. Humanity steps into a new chapter where the planet itself feels like one connected city. Morning routines are no longer tied to local schedules. Someone in Los Angeles might start their day with a yoga class in Bali, join a mid-morning board meeting in London, and be back in California by noon. The idea of jet lag has vanished. The only challenge is remembering what time zone your friends are in. Education is transformed, too. A high school class in Nairobi can spend the afternoon visiting a science museum in Berlin, then return home before sunset. Universities create global campuses where students physically travel between continents for different lectures, as easily as students once walked between buildings. Families no longer feel the pain of distance. Grandparents in India see their grandchildren in Canada every weekend. Brothers and sisters living oceans apart can celebrate birthdays in person. For billions, family ties that were once stretched thin across continents are suddenly restored. Weddings, reunions, festivals, all become global affairs. A wedding in Santorini might host guests from every continent, all arriving within the same hour. Celebrations aren't defined by who can endure a long flight anymore, but by who can book a rocket seat. With new technology comes new jobs. Entire industries emerge around the rocket economy. Rocket port architects design massive floating hubs to host millions of passengers. Orbital tour guides lead civilians through trips around Earth. Suborbital hospitality crews provide luxury service on 30-minute rocket rides. For children growing up in this world, becoming a rocket pilot or orbital concierge is as normal a dream as becoming a doctor or engineer once was. Perhaps the most profound change is cultural. With borders shrinking, traditions don't just spread, they merge. Music fuses across continents as artists collaborate in person more often than online. Fashion trends no longer roll out season by season. They spread globally in days, carried by rocket travelers. Even languages evolve, with more people blending words and accents from across the globe, creating a truly interconnected human voice. The Earth has not only grown smaller, it has grown more unified. What began as Elon Musk's dream, a rocket ride from Los Angeles to Sydney in just 30 minutes, has become a story of humanity itself. Yes, the challenges were immense. Safety, cost, regulations, and the environment all stood as towering obstacles. Yet, history has shown us something remarkable. When visionaries push boundaries, humanity adapts. And so, the rocket age future reshaped how we live love, work, and dream. No longer do oceans divide us. No longer does distance define us. For the first time in history, the Earth itself feels small enough to hold in our hands and large enough to explore in ways our ancestors only imagined. But perhaps the most powerful part of the story is not the rockets or the speed or even the technology. It is a reminder that bold ideas, once dismissed as impossible, can in time redefine the very fabric of our world. Elon Musk's vision began with a single promise: LA to Sydney in 30 minutes. What it became was the beginning of a future where humanity itself learned to live without limits.